Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and I'm back with another review. So today we're taking a look at from the Transformers Earthrise line. This is the Quintesson Judge. Now, it's funny, over the years I've heard two different pronunciations, Quintesson or Quintesson. I've always usually say like Quintesson, who are from Quintessa, that little bit of a difference. But I got this figure off of Amazon.com, so if you pre-ordered them, they should be shipping out now. I have not heard any reports of the figure being found at retailers. So yeah, we're going to start off in just a moment because there's a couple little pre-things I want to show you. Okay, so starting off, one thing I wanted to show you. First, you can remove the figure from the stand, but as we come around, it's these two heads here. They come detached in the packaging, and the way you're going to attach them is first you want to remove that centerpiece. We'll talk about more about that in a little bit, and then if I can flip it up here, you'll notice that there's this gray tab section. Now, what's interesting is the other faces do not have that section. These are actually pinned in. So these two heads right here are actually meant to be attached. I guess that's for the packaging. Well, here's the problem. This head right here was really no problem to attach. This head, the red one, with the angry face, was very difficult to attach. Almost to the point that there were several instances that I thought I was going to rip this plastic section off of its pin. I don't know why it was so much harder. They attached the same way, a hook and a slot. In fact, I actually took this one off because I had it on this tab. So I thought there's a specific way they have to go on. Same connection. Just be aware, because I'll be honest with you, it was getting to a point that I was just going to say, I can't put this on, and going to have to leave it at that. But it did go on. I'm never taking them off, so this is going to be interesting getting it back in the box. But just be aware of that it does require a great deal of force, far more force than a child would be able to do. And also, as you can see, this one does have a moving jaw. There's actually, out of the four faces, two that have a movable jaw like that. This one doesn't. Death obviously does. And this guy doesn't. So, actually, I'm sorry, it's three that don't have the movable jaw, and only two that do. Oh yeah, that's five heads. Whoops. Oh, five faces of darkness. But yeah, that was one thing, and I mean, it was just very odd. I ended up having to use a spudger to pry open one of the slots to try and get it in. But let me reattach this piece. That comes into play with the transformation of the figure. Yes, this actually does transform, but I'm sure you all know that. One of the other gimmicks that this figure has, and you'll notice here, there's this little section that has a peg hole. There's two. That's about it. There's only two there. And that kind of works with the blaster here that is under. You can store it under the seat. And basically what you do, you can peg this in. On each tentacle, there's a small peg and a slightly larger peg. Take the small peg it into the side of the blaster. Now, really, you would only do this on the side where that port is. And also, I should stop calling it a blaster. It's actually a welding tool. And then what you can do is, the tentacles are very soft plastic, so you can bend it, and just peg it in underneath like that. The reason you can do that, and the point to doing that, is one of the later G1 episodes, The Return of Optimus Prime, a Quintesson judge was rescued by the Autobots before getting the madness disease, and was working on repairing Optimus Prime. Because remember, in the show, the Quintessons were the creators of the Autobots. So you can, of course, undo that. All the tentacles are on some form of a hinge joint. But like I said, there's no ball joint, there's no rotation, but the plastic is soft enough that you can move it around a little. And it won't exactly hold the spot, but you can work with it. And let me go ahead and put this back under the seat and take that out of the way for now. The next gimmick I want to show you is basically the cool one. And right back here is a little sliding tab. And of course, that means you can rotate the heads around. Now, they're not exactly... it doesn't line up properly because I'm not really sure where the front of this is. But sometimes it will go like a little smoother and faster than others. Like that first one was a little faster. This one is a little smooth. And like I said, there's no real set locking point. And you can, of course, rotate the head manually to get a head in place. Bringing in the Cyberverse, Quintesson judge. I have to say, this does the face rotating gimmick a lot better, because you can just push down here and go boinky, 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 and it lines up properly. You know, there's a front and a back. And I also like how the tentacles were handled, where these are on ball joints and there is rotation. So I take that out. But then again, it's been how many years since the Transformers movie, and we're finally getting a proper representation of the Quintesson. Really can't complain. So, as I mentioned, this can transform. So, let's start getting into the transformation. First thing I would recommend is bringing the tentacles all the way down. Now, and also I should mention, you can do this like facing any way, but as you'll see, there's a panel that will peg into the throne, so that will be an important step. First, remove this central section, and then unplug this dome part from this cage. And we're going to put those off to the side. Cage does open, by the way, and there is like a little port in there, so it looks like you can actually port somebody in there, but like they showed like Battle Masters being able to be held in there, and it does peg together so it stays shut. Next, what you want to do is come in and flip the heads all the way up. Make a point that the ones with the movable jaws, make sure their jaws are shut. And you want to... oh, wait, yeah, no, this guy's jaw moves. So it was like... I think there's two solid and one doesn't. But one thing I do want to show is that there is like a tab. That's really what you should be pulling on. And don't worry if they're not going to close flush. They will flare out a little. So just be aware of that. And then do that. And we do that. So you have it up like that, like a flower. Next, what you want to do is, and this is going to be very important, these panels will fold down. Now, if you notice on the bottom of the panel, right where my finger is, there's a little notch. And right underneath, there's a slot. So it's on a double hinge, so you want to make sure this hinges down all the way, and that peg goes into that slot. Do that on all the sides. Make sure you got to use both hinges to do this. I think that's basically secures the base. Okay, oh, good. We have a little bit of a problem. If you notice here, this is a double slot. instead of a single. You have to have it, that single slot needs to be lined up right here with this this ramp, and you'll see why in a moment. So go back, resecure all those ones we just did so they're lined up properly. I'm glad that happened, just so I was able to point that out to you. Okay, so here we are, this final slot, which, by the way, is connected to the death face. That'll help you remember. Bring that down. It is on a single hinge, and that will only come down half the way. You got a little opening there and one of those air connector pieces. We're not done yet. Come underneath here, and on the stand, which unfortunately is clear, and on the box they showed it being orange, push down on that gray lever, and that will allow you to release the stand. Now at this point, you want to try to thread the tentacles out between the gaps in the panels there. And what you'll do with this is, it's very hard to see, but there are two ports there that will peg into the underside of this dome piece. And, you know, I mean, this transforms. There is some effort to it, but I really don't see why, but we'll get into that later. Let's reintroduce this throne piece. Come underneath, and then you want to remove the blaster. They show it pegging into the top of this cage here. Rotate this around 180 degrees. Split the panels open, just like so. Bring that back panel down. And then this panel will connect to that gray ramp on the Quintesson Judge. And you're almost done. Now this piece just sits. It just sits on top there. It does not peg in. You would think it would like maybe hook in underneath the chins or something. It doesn't. It just sits there, and that's all they show you in the instructions how to do. And then here, that shows you to just put that cage there. Here, you know, I think I gotta bring this down a little flatter, so you have that space right there. It sits between the two pegs, and for better or worse, that's the transformed mode of the Quintesson Judge. I gotta be honest, I find this a little pointless. I understand why they had to put it in, because they probably felt no one would pay the Voyager price point for just a static figure with the transforming gimmick. But let's be honest, I'm not going to display the figure like this at all. I'm going to leave it as the Judge. And, you know, one thing I also want to mention is why we're here. These panels, these side connections, feel very cheap, like a soft plastic. So I do want to stress that care should be used. Like I said at the beginning, putting those faces in. Like this dome piece, very thin, very cheap feeling. And of course, you have that clear plastic base, so with a spring, so, you know, please, let's hope it nothing really happens. But like I said, this is not how I'm going to choose to display this figure. I'm just going to leave it in its Judge mode. So we'll pause, and we'll be back with my final thoughts. At the end of the day, can I recommend the Quintesson Judge? And the answer is yes, but just understand what you're getting in. This isn't a perfect figure. This is a static figure with a face gimmick that had a transformation shoehorned in. So because of that, I think the overall figure suffers. there's no connection up here in terms of holding that dome piece in place. When it's attached to the cage, it's all friction holding it in. Over time, I feel that loosening up. Definitely when it's connected to the base there, you turn it upside down, it's falling out. But again, I don't think a lot of people are going to be using that mode. I am a little disappointed that the cage is used in that regard, because it would be nice to be able to have it separate and have this in its robot mode, or yeah, robot mode. But then it's like there's really nothing holding that dome in place. As I said in the beginning, I got this from Amazon.com. Some people are actually ordering like 3 or 4 or even 5 versions of these. I would urge people to hold off on that bulk purchasing right now, just to make sure everyone gets a shot at being able to get a Quintesson. Also, towards the end of this month, Hasbro is going to be having their PulseCon, and that's when their what would have been their San Diego Comic-Con exclusives will become available. And one of those figures is going to be the Pit of Judgment. It's actually a set. It's going to have a Quintesson Judge, a repainted, retooled Ali Khan bailiff, a smaller posable Quintesson figure that has that's not a judge, and a small figure of Kranix that is meant to fit in that jail cell, as well as a cardboard diorama of the scene from the movie. Because don't forget, next year is the 35th anniversary of Transformers the movie. So again, with all things said about this figure, ultimately I do recommend it, because this is the first time we're getting an official representation of the Quintessons, however you say it, as they appeared in Transformers the movie. So, this is your old pal Chuck. Thank you so much for watching. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. That does help with the algorithms. I'm just happy with you watching. Also, if you really want to help, there is a card here in the corner somewhere, and a link in the description to my Patreon. All I ask is $1 a month. No thrills, no tiers, no rewards. It's just a way for you to help me to continue bringing videos like this to you. With that being said, for the Quintesson Judge, we will see you next time.